Everything that we put in our children, they're taught. They take everything. You know what I'm saying? So don't limit your children by your capabilities. Give them whatever you want. They'll, at this point in their life, they're able to take as much information as they can handle. Give it to them. Don't cap off your kids' knowledge at all. Think about it. Those people who are raised in their purpose from the beginning are the ones who becomes the great in their field. Like people who've been working.
What's happening, y'all? This is Mike D with Black Fathers Now, where we're bringing the village to the brothers. Every couple of weeks, you can look forward to a quick inspirational message or a thought-provoking guest with knowledge and wisdom, all geared towards helping you be the best father that you can be. We're bringing the village to you. Now it's your turn to do something with what you learned. All right, y'all. Let's go. What's going on, fellas? This is Mike D, and welcome to Black Fathers Now. And on today's episode, we have a unique and eclectic brother. Part of the reason that he's unique and eclectic is the fact that he's related to me. I got my man William Mustafa on the line. William is a husband, a father of 9, a filmmaker, graphic artist, a world traveler, and with the last name Mustafa, we're going to have questions about that because being a black man going through TSA with the last name Mustafa, yeah, I bet there's some stories. He created a YouTube series called Selfie that documents some of his journeys. He's done video work for boxing champ Deontay Wilder, among other things. He's currently embarking on making his name in the creative arts community in Augusta, Georgia. And I mentioned he's eclectic and unique. We're actually doing this interview on Skype, and he's currently in Milan, Italy. Yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about that in a little bit. But, fellas, with the Black Fathers Now family, let's welcome my man, my cousin, William Mustafa. William, what's happening, man?
What's up? What's
up? You know, it's funny. Look, I got to give a shout out. My man Varon, he's in a chat group that I'm in. He always says, Mike, you need to have some applause or whatever.
Yeah.
So I need to jump through and find a little thing to add it in there. But we did the clapping ourselves.
Yeah.
All right.
There you go,
There you
y'all.
go. So Varon, you got a shout out, brother. What's up, man?
Man, I'm chilling, man. I just touched down, I believe. I missed the 29th.
Okay.
That's what I always say. I left the States on the 28th and somehow got here on the 30th.
Okay.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
you know.
Time changing.
You know, so I'm time traveling a little bit. I'm 6 hours ahead of everybody right now. So I've been traveling for the last 2 days, so my brain's a little funny, but I'm here with you guys to tell you, you know, to at least share some stuff right now.
I appreciate that, brother. And like I said, we're recording this on June the 1st. It's going to air a little later on, but yes,
okay,
yes.
cool.
So he's in the process of reacclimating and jet setting and all that stuff. We'll talk about some of that too. But
of course.
But let's jump into your backstory, man. I talked about how eclectic you are, father of 9, last name Mustafa, all that good stuff, man. Let's take this thing all the way back to where it began, brother.
Born Newark, New Jersey, 1980, January 8th. Same birthday as Stephen Hawking, Isaac Newton. Let's not go there.
Okay.
We'll go there later.
Okay.
But,
okay. Got you. I got you. That might explain a little bit.
Yeah, it's a lot of stuff going on with that. But yeah, I was born January 1980 in a little place called Newark, New Jersey. At a small age, you know, I always wanted to be an artist. I mean, there was only 2 things that I ever thought to be of when I was a child. And one was an artist, and the second was a father.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've always, you know, grew up in a family, you know, up until 12 years old with my mother and my father. And we had the family unit, the grandma and grandpa right around the corner, right next door, great grandma down there in Augusta, Georgia, aunts, you know, different place. So we were raised in a family environment. So I never knew anything but family. I couldn't wait to Thanksgiving to see my cousins and see you at family reunions or just, it was just that feeling of couldn't wait to get to Thanksgiving to see your family.
That's right.
So I always loved the family. We came from a family of our great-grandfather having eight children. And, you know what I mean? So I never was against large families. And I always thought when I got old, if the greatest patriarch in my family had a whole bunch of kids, well, hell, I want a whole bunch of kids too. You know what I mean? I never thought it was anything crazy. We have so many people in our family who have a lot of children. I wanted a lot of kids too.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And as a kid, I love to draw. I love to create. I love to paint. My parents put me in the Lego club. You know, as a kid, my family never. Oh, excuse me. My family always motivated me to do the things that I wanted to do. They never deterred me from being a creative. You know, like I always explain to people when I speak in public or about my creativity or how I fostered my creativity. I always give them the example of when you're a child, and if you have children out there, like you have children, Mike, you know, your kids will be playing with the crayons over there in the corner, and they'll be drawing something and scribble, scrabble, and they'll say, look, Daddy, and they'll show you something. They'll say, isn't it an elephant? And you'll be like, it looks nothing like an elephant, but you're like, oh, it's such a... And my parents always did that until the drawing that I had became an elephant. And then as that drawing became an elephant, as I got older, and create more complex things, my parents always motivated me, saying, okay, that looks good, baby, go back and try, you know, go back and do some more. And as I got older, I kept on expounding my memory and growing. So I think what kind of fostered my creativity and my love for family was what was instilled in me as a young child. And my father and my mother always wanted me to find my purpose and work in my purpose. They never wanted me to pull out of it. They never said, hey, stop doing that and go do something productive. Or they didn't say, hey, that doesn't look like an elephant. That looks like scribble scrabble. You shouldn't be doing that. You're wasting your time. Or when I would build little things and said, Daddy and Mom, you know, or Poppy, you know, when I get older, I'm going to design my own house, or, ooh, I'm going to build these Legos. And my father, to this day, still has, it actually, I think it broke like in 96, but he had like a house that I had constructed in Legos for like, obviously in 96, I was 16. So for 16 years or 14 years or something, he had this house that I constructed. So all in my, you know, throughout my life, whenever I would see it, I would always think, that's going to be my house. You know what I'm saying? Like, I would always be motivated to do certain things. I think it's very imperative what we put in our children's mind, or what we saturate our children with at a young age. It's so impressive, you know, it leaves such an impression for the future. You know what I mean? Like, as a kid during the summer, you know, I took my only art class. No, that's a lie. I took 2 art classes. I failed art in school every time I took it. And so I stopped taking it as an elective because I got mad. Like, stop telling me I can't draw. That's bullcrap. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? I'm just not drawing what you want me to draw.
That's it.
Like, they would say, hey, draw this apple. And I would draw the apple and the table and the teacher pointing at the apple saying, draw it. And I would get in trouble. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? I was like, well, you
following instructions was the issue, right? Being creative was not an issue.
Yeah,
it was following the instructions. You dig?
Instructions, exactly. I just couldn't do it. You know what I mean? And in the way that I was supposed to go, like Scripture says, if you would like a child to raise, you know, if you want a child to grow a certain way, raise it in a direction in which you want it to grow.
Gotcha.
You know what I'm saying?
Gotcha.
Until the roots get strong, and then no matter what happens, it still should at least go in the direction you put it in.
Gotcha.
So I think my parents allowed me to, you know, discover my purpose and work in it.
You know, you say something. You say something that's pretty powerful, but it's also something that I directly connect to myself. I tell folks that I'm more of a concepts person than a recipe person, right? So I'm a great cook, but I'm not a great baker because I don't like to follow recipes. I don't find the joy in following recipes, but yet I like to dibble and dabble and throw a little bit of this, a little bit of that into the pot and the pan and make something happen. Now, granted, it doesn't always turn out great, but I enjoy that particular process. So I'm more of a concepts person. Don't give me a recipe. Let me know how long the meat has to cook. Let me figure out what flavors meld together and let me play with it.
Exactly.
You know, but
exactly. I'm the exact same way.
But yet if you give me a recipe, I'm like, y'all can do that. Like even like some of these services, like these HelloFresh and all these different, you know, box services for meals, that doesn't intrigue me because I'm like, I don't want to just follow recipe and get what the box says, I mean, there's no joy in that for me. My joy is
No joy.
yes, tinkering and playing with and all of that. But the moment that you start telling me to do it, or the moment that you start making me follow a script, is the moment that I probably don't want to do it anymore. So I wholeheartedly agree with
like my bane of my existence.
That's it. I wholeheartedly.
I mean, that's like the bane of my existence.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is like, it's impacted my creative career so much.
Mm-hmm.
What you just said.
Mm-hmm.
Back in about 2005, 2006, I was privileged enough to work with Marvel Comics, and what I had learned was, I was working on Thor, and I was doing the ink work, where basically you have, I thought the comic book process was a lot more streamlined and more fun than it actually was. You know, like we just spoke of, being kind of confined to do things in a particular recipe, and my creativity and my brain being boxed into something and not allowing me to kind of let my brain be free. So as a child, as I mentioned, I did this graphic novel and I did all this comic book work and had this dream of being this comic book artist at one point in my life. And then to actually get to that goal, to work for Marvel Comics and to be working on an actual issue of Thor, and they send me out 18 pages, and it wasn't bad money.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? At the time, I don't recall, but let's just say they paying $300 a page.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? And they're giving you 18 pages to do. You're like, hell, that's straight.
That's what's up.
Shoot,
Yeah.
back, you know what I'm saying? You like, shoot, $300. So I was excited about this job until I had to do the work.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like, they give you all this work, and they give you already drawn comics. It's already drawn. Like, an artist has already drawn the pencil work. And then your job is to go back over and ink it.
Okay.
And I was like, the hell is this? Like, this isn't creative. I'm tracing somebody else's work. I don't care. It's $300 a page. I don't feel like tracing nobody else's work. You know what I'm saying? Like, that doesn't feel like I'm being creative. And I was like, man, this isn't for me. You know, even though I had worked all that time to get to a particular place that I thought I wanted to be, that's not where I wanted to be. You know what I'm saying? So I totally understand that. My mother has always said, the second you make it a job for William, you ain't gonna want to do it. You know what I'm saying?
You say something there, though, that is interesting. The moment that you make it a job is the moment that you don't want to do it. That's fascinating, because I think that's something that a lot of brothers run into. And, I mean, this is called Black Fathers Now. I think, honestly, when we think about fatherhood sometimes, I think some of us have to, in our minds, not play games with ourselves, but you have to kind of, retitle things and reimagine things, because if you are a person that looks at something that the moment that it becomes a job, that your interest kind of wanes in that, then you have to start thinking about things a little bit differently, so that whatever you're doing no longer feels like this mundane, routine, day in, day out, quote unquote job, because at the end of the day, you might not put your best foot forward. And I think that can apply to life, and fatherhood as well. What do you think?
I think that is completely true. I think a lot of people out there want to be dads until they get to the responsibility of being a father. It's completely different. It's a different story. I mean, as you said earlier, I have 9 children. I by no means can I actually say I am the best father in the world. You know what I mean? It's a law of averages. You know what I'm saying? I mean, shoot. But the point of the matter is, I don't run from it. I enjoy fatherhood. I love it. It's nothing better than, as you know, to have a kid. It's nothing better to see and you know this feeling, to be in the bed and your kids run in the room in the morning and jump on the bed and daddy, it's tickle time, wake up now. That's nothing better. That's priceless.
That is. It's priceless, and it's one of those things that it's hard to explain to a brother who does not have kids the joy that you find in something like that. And so
it's impossible.
But the moment that you become a father is, the moment that you make that description, then that other father is like, oh yeah, you don't even have to go any farther, man. I know exactly what you're talking about. That's real.
It's nothing like that. And then, if by chance the relationship between the mother and father doesn't work out, if you don't feel the emptiness from missing that feeling, you need to check yourself. You know what I'm saying? Because I know I've had many conversations with men, right, mm-hmm. who have children outside of marriage. You know, not outside of their marriage, but they had a marriage, maybe they had a divorce, or they had a relationship with a female, but they still, you know, it didn't work out for some reason. But there's some guys who don't care. Mm-hmm. Like, it doesn't bother them. Like, you say that, and they're like, you know what I'm saying? We say it to some dads, and just like you say, it connects, and you're like, brother, don't say no more. Mm-hmm. It hurts.
It does.
I don't even want it. I don't want to hear about it. And you know what I mean? Because it bothers you.
And the thing is, and to your point with your experience, man, let's kind of dive into that. This is like a great transition because, you know, we mentioned that, you know, you're 38 with 9 kids. You started early, right? So
I started at 16. I had my first wife, I'll say, which she got pregnant when we were in our 11th grade of high school. Mm. So we were actually 16 turning 17. So we had our first child. Check this out. A lot of people who don't know me don't realize I had my first child in 11th grade, my second child in 12th grade. No, is that right? Yeah.
Yes.
11th, 12th. Yeah, 11th, 12th, and then the third child that next summer. So I had a child 17, 18, 19 years of age, 97, 98, and 99. And I still graduated high school. Because for me, I've always been one to hate statistics. Mm-hmm. I hate them because they're just numbers. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? There's always an anomaly within those statistics, and there's always an average. There's always above, and there's always a below. Mm-hmm. You know, no one sits on the direct median of a statistic.
That's right.
So for me, I did not want to be anywhere in that statistic. So if they said it's a possibility for you to still do everything you want to do in your life because you had kids, I said, well, I'm going to be that one. Mm-hmm. I don't care what you think. So when I was in high school, I was like, okay, I have a kid. I'm still going to graduate, and I graduated. Mm-hmm. And after high school, when it was time to go to college, I went to college. But college was a little bit more difficult, not because of the children. It's because of the region and climate and environment that I was in. Mm. At that particular time, I had 3 children, or actually before I went into university, I went to college directly out of high school, and then after that, the college thing didn't work. I jumped right into the Marines.
Okay.
And then I got hurt in the Marines. You know what I mean? So I always went against the grain, bro. I was like, there's no way in hell you're going to tell me that I'm not going to graduate. There's no way you're going to tell me that I'm not going to be successful. There's no way you're going to tell me that everything that I thought of prior to this, as we spoke of previously about being an artist and a father, I'm not going to do. Mm. Now, when I had children, I always had, I shifted from the creative spectrum. A lot of people only know me for my creative part of my life. But prior to that, I was into business and marketing and management. Mm-hmm. And once I got hurt out of the Marines, I quickly realized that there's no way in heck I'm going to be able to get a job and to provide the quality of life that I want for my children. So I have to make my own money. Mm. And I said, well, there's no way in heck that I'm able to go out there and sell drugs or do something illegal. And if I get caught, then I'll be away from my kids, which will be working counteractive against me wanting to be a father. Mm-hmm. So I said, I can't do that. So I had to figure out a way to hustle and create some income. And what I found was sales. I said, well, in sales, I could find my own income. And my buddy, I was working at, a brief background. My father came from the sales industry. My father's been an insurance agency for the last 39 or 38 years. I'm 38. So he's been an insurance agent for 38 years. He was out on the street, he says, hustling. I don't know what that means. Mm-hmm. And he said when I was born, he put that down and picked up insurance. Mm. And he said from that point, I watched him go out there in the streets and knock on people's doors and sell insurance. He taught me sales principles from a child. Mm. Like I mentioned, like we had it in our private conversations, my father taught me the value of a dollar very, very early. Mm-hmm. You know, when I went to school, my father, we used to go to the warehouse club or what is now Costco's. And we used to go and buy candy. And I used to go to school and sell my candy. I didn't eat the candy. Mm-hmm. I sold the candy.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing about it was always funny that when I tell people this story, it's not like my parents fronted me the money, so I had to understand profits and profits and loss and price my candy right to pay back my parents.
That's it. That's real.
You know what I'm saying? Like, my parents were like, okay, I bought this for you. When I came back home, he said, how much you earn? I'm like, this much. He said, well, give it to me. And I'm like, whoa, I didn't make anything. So he said, well, maybe you need to adjust your prices. And I'm like, damn. Okay, Pops, I feel you. Okay, and that taught me the value of $1. My father also bought me 2 bikes when I was a kid, one for me to ride and one for me to rent.
One for you to ride and one for you to rent.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because he was saying, because when you go out with your friends, don't your friends want to come? If your friend ain't got a bike, charge them 50 cents. Cool. So every year I used to re-up on my bikes. You know what I'm saying? By the time I was 12, boy, I had 3 bikes in the backyard, and all my friends wanted to play with me, and we were all over the neighborhood. You know what I'm saying? Because I was always in that entrepreneurial spirit. When I was young, I used to draw stuff. And like I told you, in private conversations again, my mother, she was always into black cultural fairs, and we used to go to cultural fairs and Renaissance fairs for African-American culture. And this, again, jumping forward back to my involvement in the Augusta community, I don't see that anymore. I don't see the black cultural fairs that show our culture and share it with the community as much as we used to when we were children in northern states, I guess we should say. And I want to kind of bring back that culture to my southern city, Augusta, Georgia, who was known for soul. Yes. I want to kind of help invigorate that soul back. And I want to walk down on Broad Street and smell cornbread and collard greens and macaroni and cheese, at least on 8th Street. You know what I'm saying?
I feel you. I
want to smell these things. So going back is just the cultivation of working in your purpose, working with my father, and him teaching me the value of $1 at a very early age was so pivotal, and it really played so much into my life later on. It's amazing how God works.
Oh, everything in life happens for a reason, and if you step back and allow God to work in your life, and we're gonna jump into God in a second because your last name is Mustafa. Interesting. We're gonna dive into that in a second. But but one of the things you also mentioned was your mom was involved in cultural fairs and she used to do things with dolls. And we jumped over this, but this is a conversation you and I've had previously. Talk about the doll William.
Yeah, little William. As I mentioned, I always wanted to be a father. So my mother we used to go to cultural fairs. So my mother used to buy materials wholesale and sell it retail. So she used to go find black baby dolls because there was always an absence of black baby dolls in the industry back in the 80s. There wasn't a lot of them. Barbie was everything. So my mother used to make little black Muslim baby dolls with head coverings and long dresses. And then she had the Christian ones that would have them without the headdress, but long dresses. You know what I'm saying? And she'd be like, well, I'm not Muslim. She'd be like, there you go. Now you're Christian. So it would always be so I used to be around it so much, and I always wanted to be a father, and I wanted to nurture things. My mother gave me a doll, and the doll was named William. And she used to make clothes for it, and she used to take care of it. And I used to take this doll with me everywhere. But I was never made to feel feminine because I had a doll. There were little jokes by my grandpa, like, that boy gonna be gay. But it was a joke. You know what I'm saying? But for the most part, they always cultivated me okay, where's William at? Did you take care of William? And it was more of a thing that my father and mother wanted to instill in me. And my father, he kind of put a curse on me. I hate that he did this, but he drug in my head the word responsibility. That was the word of the day every day. I hate that word to this day. It just irritates me. You know what I'm saying? Responsibility. And I'm like, stop. I hear his voice in my head. Because he said, William, I would go somewhere and I would leave the doll on the floor. He said, hey, where William at? You can't leave him on the floor. I'm like, oh, and I would go back and get William and put him up somewhere. I didn't have to play with him, but I couldn't leave him around like that. So it taught me responsibility. And as we mentioned before, I think that's what's missing. I think people in this generation are forgetting the points. How can I say this? they're forgetting the importance of the things that we do for our children that teach them lessons that will help them later on in life.
That's big. I'm gonna tell you, brother, that is so big in the sense that there are so many little nuanced things that were said to me, that were done for me, that were exemplified or modeled for me, that I carry forward to this day, that to some would be insignificant. So, fathers, I want y'all, when you're listening to this, to think about those little things that you're saying, that you're doing. You might view them as being insignificant, but that little quote, that little saying, that one little vote of confidence will be something that your son or daughter, or if you're a father figure, maybe your niece, your nephew, or your little brother, whoever, that little nugget of information or that little quote, that little snippet of something that you think is so insignificant could mean the world to that kid, and that can and possibly will be something that they take forward and live by going forward. So don't miss out on those small moments. Don't miss out on those small moments.
Never do. I mean, because we forget the value in giving children pets. We give children pets like, oh, it's a pet, go play with it, and then when they get tired of it, the dog is just, then it becomes the family animal. But we forget that when we give a human an animal, we're actually seeing how they relate with humanity. How does it treat this animal? Is it treating it with kindness? Is it treating it with tenderness? Is it making sure it's eating? Is it making sure it's washed? Is it making sure it's clean? These small little lessons that they're learning by remembering, oop, it's 2 o'clock. Take the dog out. Oop, dog got to feed. Dog got to eat. Oop. Those are lessons that will keep them that will teach them responsibility as an adult, as a teenager.
You throw something there, too, and it makes me think back to this whole concept of your parents giving you a doll, right? Because when we think about, like, I have a son and a daughter, and my daughter does have dolls, and my son doesn't have dolls, but he has, like, action figures, right? And it's interesting, we give our sons action figures. We give them things to play with, manly type, activities. But at the end of the day, at some point, my son will grow up, get married, and be a father. And so if we don't introduce opportunities for him to nurture things going forward, then how all of a sudden at 28 or 30 or 35 or whenever he becomes a father, how do we then expect him to then all of a sudden flip the script, turn the switch on, and become this nurturing, loving figure if we don't model some of these things, to him, or if I don't model some of these things to him as a young man?
I think it's very, very, very important. Everything that we put in our kids, everything that we put in our children, they're taught. They take everything. You know what I'm saying? So don't limit your children by your capabilities. Give them whatever you want. They'll, at this point in their life, they're able to take as much information as they can handle. Give it to them. Don't cap off your kids' knowledge at all. Think about it. Those people who are raised in their purpose from the beginning are the ones who becomes the great in their field. Like, people who've been working in their purpose and determined that's what they wanted to do, and everything in their environment worked towards them and helped them do that, are the people who become great in their fields. So greatness is not something that is anomalous. Greatness is not thought of. We're taught not to be great. We're taught to be normal. So
we are.
You know what I mean?
No, park there for a second. We're taught not to be great. We're taught to be normal. So if you want your kids to be great, we have to teach them to be great. We have to teach them that greatness is a possibility. We have to teach them that greatness lives inside of them. We just have to cultivate that. One of the concepts that I utilize is unwrapping your gifts. Right? It's like when you think about someone giving you a gift, if someone gives you a gift, the first thing you have to do is unwrap it, right? And so if you look at your life and you think about the gifts, the talents and skills that you've been blessed with, that you've been fortunate enough to uncover, the first thing you have to do is unwrap those gifts. Once you unwrap the gift, you still have to then put it together. You have to cultivate it. You have to work on it. You have to develop it. But at the end of the day, we have to do that. And so we have to allow our kids to see the gifts that are inside of them, but then also encourage them to unwrap it, but then also figure out ways to cultivate those gifts so that they can grow and understand that greatness is a legitimate possibility. Now, William, let's jump into this. Okay, your last name is Mustafa, all right?
Yep.
Last name Mustafa. You's a black man who travels the world. You practice Islam.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to us a little bit about being Muslim, raising kids who have the last name Mustafa, but then also going through TSA as a brother with the last name Mustafa. Talk to us a little bit about that, brother.
I was born a Muslim. I was raised in an Islamic household. My grandmother, and as we know, we come from a super seriously Baptist family.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Of very prominent and successful preachers on every generational. Being raised in a very spiritual family, Islam just happened to be the language of my particular household. You know what I mean? Because we always had a belief in God, and God is only one God, no matter what religion that you're speaking from. It's just your particular language of how you relate to him. So I explained that to my children at a young age. I was lucky enough for the Lord to put me in positions with the mother of my children to come from similar backgrounds of God-fearing families. Meaning, my first wife, she came from a Jehovah's Witness background. Mm-hmm. So there weren't many similarities there weren't many things that were uncommon from the way we believed and the things and how we celebrated. Okay. So there was never a conflict on what we ate as far as dietary, because most of them didn't eat pork and things that weren't, they were Old Testament eaters of Deuteronomy. So they didn't worry about they didn't care about, or they didn't go by some of the things that some Christian theologians say that, Jesus came and he made everything clean. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, he was the lamb to make all that stuff. Okay. So for them, they were like, okay, we don't eat pork either. So boom, that was the biggest thing.
Yeah.
We don't eat pork. We straight. You know what I'm saying? We good. And so for me, what's interesting, being a Muslim never was an issue until 9/11 happened.
Really?
I was the first Muslim that everybody knew. No one ever said anything funny to me about being a Muslim. I never felt funny about it. I never felt uncomfortable. I never had an issue with it. When people meet me because I'm a God-fearing individual, they have no idea what religion I am anyway, because I'm speaking the same language that they are, because God is God no matter where you're at. If you're a true believer. The problem is people involve other crap that's with God that don't need to be there. You know what I'm saying? God is God.
That's right.
Period.
That's right.
Period. You submit to the will of what your Lord tells you to do, and you should be okay. The Bible is here as the footwork to everything that we need to know. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, as Muslims, we're taught to read all books that come from divine revelation. So whenever I got in a relationship with someone who was outside of my faith, I know we read the same book anyway. You just maybe not have been introduced to the Quran, but I've read the Book of Mormon, which, or I've read the New World Translation, or I've read the Septuagint, or I've read the Torah, or I've read, the Gnostic text or the intercedial text. I mean, it's something that we do as culture, because as Muslims, we're taught to read. And a true Muslim is one who, we don't have a dissension between another believer. We're supposed to love everyone if you're a true believer. You know what I mean? So if I hate you, then I'm not a Muslim.
Wow. You know
what I'm saying?
And I think that's important, and it's interesting because obviously due to media and what, the propaganda and things that kind of get put out there about, folks of different belief structures or come from different places, there's a lot of misinformation. And so to your point, you mentioned that, if you don't believe, or if you don't love your neighbor, if you don't, love that next person, then in truth, you're not truly a Muslim, correct? Is that what you just said?
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly. Because if you talk about, I hate a Christian, that don't make no sense. We pray for Christians in all of our prayers 5 times a day. That's like, in the Islamic prayer, it's in the name of God. I'll say it in English. In the name, I'll break down some knowledge for folks that don't know real quick. When you hear Muslims praying 5 times a day, we do a particular prayer. And in English, it pretty much goes like, in the name of God, well, in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful. All praises are due to Allah, the Cherisher and the Sustainer of the worlds. Master of the Day of Judgment, thy aid do we seek for help. O Lord, I can't say it in English so easy,
Yeah.
O Allah, show me the straight way, the way of those thou hast bestowed thy grace, and the way of those whose portions are not wrath, and the way of those who have gone astray after hearing your teachings. So within that particular section of the prayer, we're speaking particularly about Jews, Christians, and any other person who have gone astray after hearing your teaching. So we pray for the people of the book, who we call the people of the book Christians. And a Christian is one who is Christ-like. And if you're being Christ-like, you're being a Muslim because you're submitting to the will of God, because you're doing as Jesus did. People don't realize that Muslims love Jesus. As a true Muslim, every time we even mention a prophet's name, we're supposed to say all praises be due to him, just as respect. So Muslims don't disrespect Jesus. We love Jesus. We love him. We love him. There is no salvation without him. There's no understanding how to submit truly to the will of God because he showed us an example. And I give people the example of religions, in my opinion, and perceptions are like support groups. There are people who maybe who can just quit cold turkey and don't need the support group and can stay away from that crap. But there are some people who do need the community and group to strengthen their resolve to keep them away from the alcohol. There's some people who need to stay in church or stay in the support group to still stay connected to God because they can't visualize. They can't see something. They don't have the same spiritual resolve as the next person. So they need to stay and study until they are able to build their faith and relationship with the Lord. So I think that culturally, based upon where you live at, your religion is based most of the time dictated, and this is going further into your question about where you're from. And what I've understood in my travels, when I leave America, the view of Islam is a little bit different. Because in America, it seems as though for the majority of the time they paint Muslims as being brown Arabs. But a Muslim Muslims are everything. Muslims are black, white, Chinese. People forget that we're the second largest religion on the planet. Billions of us on every single continent, so we look completely different. So to say that a Muslim is an Arab guy that they're just pushing out in the media as Muslims, ban the Muslims, how can you figure out who's a Muslim? Everybody's Muslim. How can you ban a Christian? You will never be able to figure out which one's a Christian. So in traveling the world, I kind of had that Malcolm X experience where I saw the vast array of the different cultures and how they interact with people, and especially when I went to Morocco and North Africa and I was able to really be in the midst of a completely 100% Islamic country. My wife took a picture of me while we were eating, and I just broke down and cried. Because to me, I'm getting chills to thinking about this. Think about an area, right? Mike, think about this. And let's just take Islam and just say this is a Christian, because you being more Christian-based as far as your thinking. Imagine being in a place where Christians 5 times a day stopped everything they were doing to pray to their Lord. And everybody stopped. Communally, everybody came together. They stopped where they were. They got out their cars. They prayed right there in community with their Lord. You know what I'm saying? That's powerful. Now imagine being in a country and everybody just prays to their Lord. That to me was the most powerful thing I have ever seen in my life.
So it's interesting and powerful to hear you talk about it from that perspective, because, for me, I'm a Christian. And so growing up Christian and, understanding the Bible and understanding, what it is we believe, with the new covenant, we recognize that there are 2 commandments that we should keep and hold true to ourselves. And that's, put no other God before him. But then, 2, to love your neighbor as yourself. And these 2 cover a multitude of sins, which is very similar to how your perspective is or how you approach Islam. And my whole thing is to basically show that we're all people. And I think at first, by having respect for your brother, having respect for your neighbor, opens up that window for you to have a conversation and then to learn more about that person and to understand the layers. And that's why I really wanted you to kind of dive in a little bit and really explain a little bit more about Islam for some folks that are some of the brothers that are listening to the, to the podcast, because, there's a lot of things that we don't know. And like you mentioned, things for you were okay until 9/11 happened. And then from that point, stuff changed. And I'll also dive into the fact of, you mentioned you went to Morocco. My wife and I, like I said, we're Christian, but we actually went and spent a day in Qatar. So we were in the Middle East where everybody was wearing a hijab and everything was all Islamic, and it was quite interesting. Everybody looked like bin Laden. It kind of throws your sensibilities on their side. But then once you start interacting with people, we were talking back and forth, and it was never an issue that we felt uncomfortable. We also spent time on Zanzibar, off the coast of Tanzania, and Zanzibar is like 95% Muslim. And what was ironic about it, we actually went to Zanzibar during Ramadan. So it was like an interesting thing being a Christian in the midst of, an almost total Muslim existence, but we were not uncomfortable. But we were there learning and understanding and communicating and interacting with people.
Exactly.
We got to Qatar, we were walking around taking pictures and went down to the souk, which is kind of like the big market and everything. And then, but like I said, everything is Islamic. Like even the road signs have like the images of people in hijabs, walking and crossing the street and stuff. It's different. But to your point, we weren't treated badly. We weren't, castigated because, we had a different belief. I mean, we weren't treated bad. I'll be honest. We were not treated bad. We didn't feel uncomfortable, and it was cool. But to your point, I think that's the beauty of getting outside of your norm and getting into different environments where you can see how things really are and not necessarily getting fed specifically what is given to you via the various news channels.
Once we travel and we have a better understanding, the world becomes very, very small. You know what I mean?
That's big. Travel is important.
Travel is important, and your view and your mind, your community starts growing because you have traveled and your mind is bigger. So when you go back home, you can make your community better. And that's what I'm trying to do now in Augusta, Georgia. I'm really trying to take the knowledge and things that I've learned over the 20 years of, professional work now and literally apply it all together within a place that I call home, Augusta, Georgia.
And you mentioned, now we have to jump into this because you mentioned your wife, and I also mentioned the fact that we're doing this recording. I'm in Tennessee, and you're in Milan, Italy.
Milan, Italy. Milano.
And so to that point, you mentioned your wife, and you're Muslim, but she's not a Muslim, is she?
No, she's Catholic.
That is interesting.
That's funny, too. It's pretty weird.
I
mean, but it's cool because, again, obviously my wife is not a Muslim. She was born in Italy, raised in Italy, foreign exchange student in, of all cities, Augusta, Georgia.
Wow.
And at the time, I was in a relationship, so I couldn't kick that game. You know what I mean? And I had a kid and another one on the way. So how I look trying to holler at an Italian girl from a different country. I got a pregnant girl. I look like a dummy. You know what I'm saying? I look, it wasn't me. So we developed a friendship. And that friendship stayed for a very long time. We tried to keep in contact for after she left, left America for a little while. I joined, like I told you in my previous story, I joined the Marines. We kind of lost connection. There was no email back then. There was no MySpace. There was no Facebook. You know what I'm saying? It was letters. And you send a letter, that bad boy would get there 3 weeks later. You know what I mean? So we lost connection. But somehow, 15 years later, we got back together. But like I said, she is Catholic. But the one thing that is our similarities between us is that we're both intellectuals. You know what I mean? So I believe strongly that religious education has elementary levels. As an example, I think you know when you're in second grade, obviously they don't give you the fifth grade information because you can't understand it. They got to teach you second grade so you can get third grade and third and get your fourth. Now you may be smart enough to skip fifth because you understand the concepts. You know what I mean, and go to sixth. But I think that's how the understanding as an intellect happens. You know, you have to study, and once you understand the basis of the information, then you can apply it towards the whole formula. So my wife, me and her, we kind of get along because we can understand each other, at least on the highest level, because we speak the same language. We do culturally bump heads, though.
Interesting.
Yeah, we culturally bump heads because there's certain things that she just cannot relate to, and she has no frame of reference. They're class levels. They're things that she just never have experienced, ever.
All right. I teased this earlier, mentioning the fact that, last name Mustafa, going through TSA. I know you got some stories, man. Talk to us about having a last name Mustafa, being a brother after 9/11, going through the airport. Talk to us, man.
It's crazy.
Really?
It's like, I travel, bro. Like, I've never, like, it's to the point when I get to Italy and I throw up my blue passport, they just say, come on.
Wow.
I don't get talked to. Like, they'll stop other people. Oh, let me see. And they'll look. Do you have anything to declare? You know what I mean? Like, they ask, are you carrying something? Are you bringing in food? Do you have anything in your bag that we need to check? Nah, bro. As a matter of fact, this last time through, I got preferred. I just went through quick.
Wow.
I was like, and, like, they gave it to me free.
Wow.
I was like, this was up. Like, I ain't, you know what? This is the first time that I've been traveling. I ain't take my shoes off.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So I would think that it would be cute and I would have ran into some things. The one thing that is that, it's not the Muslim thing. It's not the Mustafa thing. It's the fact that how much gear I'm carrying thing. You know what I'm saying? When I come through like the the little X-ray, they look at my bag, I'll be like, oh,
you're gonna be there for like 30 minutes. I know all this electronics and cameras and gadgets and all this kind of stuff.
Bro, they unpack stuff like, you know what I mean? Because I have so much stuff. And the crazy part is I always get worried like, oh, damn, Mustafa, Muslim, especially when Trump got elected and I wasn't in the country when he got elected. I just knew I wasn't going to be able to be, to make it back in here. If you guys want to, matter of fact, I made a movie about a little short about that before I came back in because I was terrified. I think it's called, I don't know the name of it, but it's on YouTube on my channel. I may post it on my Facebook page, Artworks of William Mustafa, on Facebook. But I will post it back on there today. So if anybody want to go back there after they hear this podcast, they'll be able to see it. But I made a little short film about Donald Trump and being a Muslim because I was terrified that when I was going to come back in this country, I wasn't going to be able to make it back in here. But I didn't incur any issues. So it's interesting how the media really, exasperates things in a certain manner. You know what I mean? Like, and I do think a lot of things are for distraction. I think a lot of things is for media hype. I think a lot of things is to sell fear because fear is something that people can make money off of.
That's right.
No one makes money when everybody's happy.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? They make more money off of fear. They make more money off of scaring people to say, oh, Muslims are terrorists or Muslims are... And I tell my wife this all the time because over here it's horrible. Over here it's bad because Muslims blow up stuff all the time.
Wow.
Or, excuse me, let me take that back. Muslims don't blow up nothing. These crazy people who call themselves followers of Islam blow up stuff. They're not Muslims because by definition you cannot be a Muslim and kill anyone. You know what I'm saying? That's just like saying, I'm vegetarian and I'm eating a hamburger. It doesn't make sense. You know what I'm saying? It goes against the definition of what you are. So you can't be a Muslim and be a terrorist. There's no such thing. You can't be Islamic and be a terrorist. You can't be a Christian terrorist. It's an oxymoron. So why keep selling that word into the media? Stop. Why do you always got to push, a terrorist with, well, we already know it's all fear mongering, but it's speaking to the choir. It's done for a reason. So don't believe the hype, because a black Muslim with 9 kids who carries a ton of equipment has never been stopped and questioned about anything. I've never been pulled aside for TSA. I've never been denied entry back in our country. I've been treated better going into other countries because I have a blue freaking passport. Because I'm from America, they're like, oh, come on. They don't mess with me. The motto in my family, the Mustafa motto, is be the best because you are the best. Period.
So, fellas, I hope y'all are listening to some of the things that William just dropped there. Exposure at a young age plus consistency is extremely important. And if you look back over his life with, the little William doll that he had, how that helped him to learn nurture and, how to cultivate and grow. But then also it's part of what helped him to want to be a father. You look at the exposure when it comes to the graphic design and the arts and, how his parents exposed him, but they never squashed his dream. They allowed him to cultivate and grow. Exposure at a young age plus consistency can lead to greatness. But then also understanding who you are. Like the Mustafa motto that his dad, even after his parents' divorce, would call and reintroduce to him every morning, even though it frustrated him. And as kids, we don't understand why things happen, but it's sticking now. Be the best because you are the best. That's something that, fellas, we need to introduce to, we need to put into, we need to indoctrinate into our kids. They need to understand that they need to be the best because they are the best. And part of that understanding that you are the best is knowing where you come from. So, fellas, it's incumbent upon you to know where you come from, to know your family history, to know all about yourself so that you can then pass that down to your kids so that even though they might not receive it, they might call it being, aggravating or whatever, you can let your kids, you can let your sons, your daughters know that they should be the best. They have no excuse but to be the best because they are the best.
No excuse.
Now, so though, going forward, and we're gonna have kind of wrap this up so we're not, having a huge, super long episode. We want folks to be able to kind of get all this in. With what you have going on now, man, in the creative community, the video, the photography, the filmmaking, all the stuff that you have going on, man, what's the best way for brothers to connect with you, to see what you have going on, to
The best place, if you guys want to see the type of work that I'm working on, any projects that I'm currently doing, you can find me on Facebook, obviously, and just go into that search bar and put artworks of William Mustafa. I'm transitioning all my different things, and I'm trying to kind of centralize that to be my hub for all of my work. As mentioned, I do work from graphic design to traditional media, painting, watercolor, gouache, acrylic, oil. I haven't done any sculpture in the last couple of years, but I sculpt, I do photography, videography, you name it. I'm a creative. My pen name is The Imageneer. If you would like to see some of my work on Google, just Google The Imageneer. That's TheImageneer, not I.
Okay.
The reason why there's no I in there is because me and Disney got into it over copyright. So we don't want to use I.
Gotcha.
And I'm The Imageneer. And what that pretty much means is if you can think of it, I can create it. My job is to take what people think in their brain and make it physical. And I do that in all the particular genres and get paid professionally to do so. So this is where I feel as though I am different than most people, because some people say, yeah, I paint and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Or I paint and I do photography on the side. So meaning you get paid as a painter, but you don't get paid as a photographer.
Mm-hmm.
The difference with me is that I get professionally, like right now as a project I have to edit. I have to finish some editing today. I have to do an illustration for a t-shirt, and I still have to finish some photography editing. You know what I'm saying? Like I got a lot of different, and I get paid professionally in all those different genres. So I consider myself an artist in all promotion.
That's what's up. Ain't nothing wrong. Look, and fellas, I'm gonna have all of his information in the show notes. On Facebook, it's Artworks of William Mustafa, and you Google the Imageneer, and I'll have this information in the show notes. What about like on YouTube, like the videos and the selfie series?
YouTube, you can selfie is I'm trying to host most of the episodes back on Facebook, but if you go on YouTube and do the same thing, Artworks of William Mustafa or The Imageneer on YouTube, both of those things will pull up a lot of the past content. I have probably about, I think if I'm correct, about 30 episodes out there of my life. You can see me from Africa to Italy to Spain to France. I don't think I did anything in Amsterdam, to America, to my regular everyday life that shows you the life of a working artist. No, but I want to show you my life as it happened, so you understand that, no, this really happened. Most of the artists that have come before them, people have told stories about them. I'm trying to have you read my story from my perspective. I don't want nobody else to tell you my story. I want you to look at my story.
That's, you know what? Perfect place to park and perfect place to end there. I want to tell my own story. I don't want someone else telling my story. I want to tell my own story. And the story of William Mustafa is a complex one. It's an interesting one, but it's one that you can definitely learn something from. So, fellas, most definitely Facebook, check out Artworks of William Mustafa, as well as The Imageneer. On Google, on YouTube, search Artworks of William Mustafa, The Imageneer. I'll have all of that in the show notes for you to click there. Grab some of his artwork. If you want to connect with him to deal with a project or whatever, the brother's got experience. He's talented. You look at what he's done, and you'll definitely agree with me. So most definitely check his stuff out. But I want to commend you for taking time out of your schedule over there in Milan, hanging out with your wife to dive in and really share with the Black Fathers Now family. I mean, brother, there's a lot of stuff that we touched on. We went all over the place, but there was a lot of value that I think people can learn from. And at the end of the day, a lot of your experiences and a lot of the things that you've gone through, a lot of the things that, you know, you've accomplished are all about helping us to learn and see and pull from so that we can then apply them to our lives and be the best fathers that we can be. Because, you know, you're a husband, you're a father of 9, you know, you're a brother who's living life, and you're basically a citizen of the world, so to speak. And you're taking all those experiences and synthesizing them down to a point in which we can all share in those experiences, gain something, apply it to our life, but then ultimately we can all be the best versions of ourselves. We can love our neighbors as ourselves. We can, you know, put a lot more love in the world to kind of balance off this negativity. And guess what? The next generation is going to be better than us, because at the end of the day, we're laying the groundwork. So, William, cousin, fam, I love you, and I appreciate you for taking time, brother, to come on and share with us today, man. I know we've had some technical difficulties, so and I think part of it is just the connections and all that kind of stuff. But look, we got this thing done, man, and I appreciate you for hanging out with me today, brother.
Good, man. I appreciate you having me on. I look forward to actually hearing the broadcast. I love what you're doing. I look forward to helping build out this platform in the future, because, man, we have so much work to do.
Yes.
I mean, we have so much work to do, and we have so much more life to go.
That's it. Got so much work to do and so much more life to go, brother. We got to make the most of it, you dig? Well, yo, again, man, check out everything from William Mustafa. All his information is in the show notes. Artworks of William Mustafa on Facebook, The Imageneer on Google, YouTube, the same thing. I will have it in there. Y'all click on it. Go check him out. Grab some of his stuff. Connect with him. Let him know you heard about him on Black Fathers Now. And as always, fellas, visit blackfathersnow.com. Follow Black Fathers Now on Instagram and Facebook, and Twitter as well. This episode is being brought to you by blackfamilyapparel.com. Grab some dope apparel from blackfamilyapparel.com that celebrates the nuances of the black family. Oh, and y'all can't forget this. You must go to Amazon and grab a copy of Dynamic Black Fatherhood Manifesto, my new book. 10 points that really dives into the things that we need to really commit to as black men to really be dynamic black fathers and carry our narrative forward and really help build our community, build our families, build our nations, build our world. So definitely grab a copy of Dynamic Black Fatherhood Manifesto, currently available on Amazon in paperback and Kindle form. And fellas, until next time, y'all be blessed, well, and wise. And I'll holler at you. Peace. Yo, fellas, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. And always, always, always visit blackfathersnow.com, as well as follow Black Fathers Now on virtually every social media platform you can think of. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, everywhere. Just follow us and engage with us, man. Look forward to hearing from you. And I guess until next time, I'll holler at you. Peace.